Alright, looks like we're live. How's it going, guys? Poco of HVAC here. As requested by some of you guys to cover the remaining chapter that we have left, which are chapter 3 to chapter 10. I'll try to cover as much as I can. Originally, I was gonna upload a video pre-recorded and everything, but unfortunately, since the videos are gonna be 4 or 5 hours long, I don't have that much storage left in my phone to edit all those and upload it on YouTube. So I thought probably the best possible option is go live and just upload it there. So this is December 31st, last day of the year, and wish you guys a happy new year in advance. I guess by the time you guys will be watching this video, it will be a new year already. Okay, so let's get started. As previously we covered chapter 1 and chapter 2, that alone took us about 2 hours of video. So I'm guessing to cover from chapter 3 to chapter 10, it will, realistically speaking, it will probably take us about 7 hours or 8 hours, but I'm not gonna be trying to go in details. I will only cover the pages that will be relevant to the exam specifically. Okay, so chapter 3, financial management. Here we have chapter 3, financial management. First page, table of content. Let's go ahead and try to highlight some of the stuff from this table of content. Let's start with balance sheet, highlight balance sheet, highlight when to record revenues and expenses, highlight recording transactions, highlight debit and credits, highlight separate income statement, highlight the journal, highlight the ledger, highlight income statement, highlight depreciation, highlight amortization of intangible assets. Next page. Next page, go ahead and highlight financial statement preparation, highlight account receivable, highlight account payable, highlight open invoice accounting for payables and receivables, highlight employees gross earnings, highlight remitting funds, highlight inventory accounting, highlight state sales tax, highlight local sales tax. I remember getting a question from local sales tax, and I think I got 1 or 2 questions from these pages: state sales taxes and local sales taxes. We'll go over that. And don't forget, there's also another table of contents, which is part 2 of construction accounting for financial management. Go ahead and highlight types of capital. Go ahead and highlight bank financing. Go ahead and highlight truth in lending. Go ahead and highlight change orders from estimating process. Go ahead and highlight types of contracts. Go ahead and highlight overhead cost. Go ahead and highlight financial ratios, methods of acquiring assets from analysis of purchase decision. Highlight present value method from methods used to evaluate purchase decisions. Highlight payroll record keeping. Also highlight miscellaneous tax issues. Highlight service provided by CPA. I'm not sure if it's visible in the video. I'm gonna try to adjust it. Okay. Yes, and that should be it for the table of content for chapter 3, Contractors Manual Financial Management. Okay, so chapter 311, go ahead and highlight accounts payable. Go ahead and highlight things owned are listed on the left, and claims against things owned are listed on the right. Assets, liabilities, and equities. Highlight things owned by the company are called assets. Claimed by others are called liabilities. Also for page 310, go ahead and highlight bookkeeping is the record keeping of business. Accounting is primarily concerned with the design of the system of records. $312. This is the question. This is the question I got in the exam. It was asking something about these assets. So assets. It was a question about asset equal. They had like three different answer on the exam, and it was looking for the correct one, and it was asset equal liabilities plus equity. That was the correct one. So go ahead and highlight that one for me. Nothing here. Okay, 316. 316, second paragraph. Go ahead and highlight amount receivable from a customer for goods and services is an asset called an account receivable. Chapter 317, go ahead, last paragraph. Go ahead and highlight method of accounting for revenue and expense when they're earned. Lastly, actually received or paid is called accrual method. Now, page 318, paragraph 2nd. Assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenses are called accounts. The word will be used from now on. That word will be used from now on. The value assigned to an account, furniture, $2,000 is called the account balance, or balance for short. Go ahead and highlight those for me as well. One more thing, guys. Let's say if you guys get a question on exam, and for example, let's for debits, right? For debits, you go on your table of contents and you find the debt for questions about debits and credit. It's on 320. You come to 320 and you don't find the answer for debit and credit. So at that moment, don't freak out. I would say if you see it says on the table of content it should be on 320, so instead of just doubling down on 320 thinking it's gonna be on that page, go on like these previous pages, see if you can find in those pages, or go in the page in front of it, like maybe 5-6 pages up, and see if you can find it there. So that happened to me a lot in the exam when I came across questions. Sometimes they weren't on the exact page I was looking for, but if I went back a couple pages backwards, I found it, or a couple pages past the page that I'm at. So try to look for those answers in other pages as well. Okay, so page 321. Go ahead and highlight this line, act of increasing the account And the act of increasing the account balance on an account that has a debit balance is called debiting. Instead of saying debiting the account, the act of increasing the account balance of an account that has a credit balance is called crediting. Instead of saying crediting the account. Thing here. Okay. 325. This being the case, he sets up a book in which to list by all the transaction he has to record in his financial statements. Such a book is called a journal or general journal. This journal is a company's primary record of all its business transactions. Just highlight the parts that I will be speaking of and leave the rest. Page 328. Go ahead and highlight the second paragraph for me. If he sets up another book called The Ledger, of which page is a detailed record of one account. Page 330. Third paragraph, the income statement. Categories on the income statement included revenues, expenses, and income. Chapter 334, go ahead and highlight the section for MACRS, Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System. It's a depreciation system. Under the MACRS depreciation system, second line, recovery period categories. Third line, just highlight residential rental property and highlight the year 27.5 years. And then go ahead and highlight second paragraph, real estate may only be depreciated on a straight line basis. Just highlight this part. Page 335. First paragraph, asset to recovery classes such as autos and light trucks, which are now 5-year property. Second paragraph, used in an office such as calculators, typewriters. Third paragraph, when more than 40% of such property is put in service in the last 3 months. And then page 336, third paragraph, amortization of intangible assets. First line, just highlight depreciation. Second line, in equal amounts over a period of years or months. Second paragraph, third paragraph, first line, journal entry is made which makes the revenue and expenses account balances go to zero. Page 341, first paragraph, use a new ledger. Third line, this is called opening the books. Remember guys, just the key factors, that's all we are highlighting. That's all we need for the exam as well. Okay, page 345, account receivable. Subsidiary ledger keeps track of who your customers are, what their addresses are, and how much money they owe to you. Second line. Second paragraph, overdue 30 to 60 days, and any other period that you might decide to follow. Page 347, discounts, first line. The open invoice method provides sufficient detail to allow you to take advantage of discounts offered by suppliers for early payment of their invoices. Page 349, First paragraph, first line, an employee's gross earnings. Second line, gross earnings. And on this section, just highlight vacation pay. Then move on to regular pay. First line, just highlight hourly rate of pay. And then move on to overtime pay, highlight for hourly paid employees. Move on to tips, and move on to third paragraph, and highlight in excess of $20 for 1 month. And then page 351, first paragraph, vacation pay, highlight vacation pay recorded as part of the employee's gross wages. And then also highlight first 6 of these deductions are covered by federal. 353, go ahead and highlight Social Security tax and Medicare tax. Social Security tax and Medicare tax portions of FICA have their own wage basis. Forms 941 and W2. Fourth line, base and the Medicare tax is 1.45% with an unlimited wage base. Second paragraph, when accumulated gross annual earnings exceed $118,500, you stop deducting the 6.2% amount for Social Security tax. You continue to deduct the 1.45% amount for Medicare. Now, I'll tell you guys this. I definitely remember getting questions about these percentages. So, yes, go ahead and highlight those parts for me as well. Nothing here. Okay, page 357. To the Internal Revenue Service, also known as IRS, go ahead and highlight remit funds to the Internal Revenue Service for FIT. Page 358. Page 358, first paragraph, go ahead and highlight a separate check to the Internal Revenue Service is required for the FIDO payment. To remit the FIDO funds, you prepare a check and account for it with a journal entry in the general journal. Then move on to inventory accounting and highlight inventory assets may be acquired by the direct purchase form from suppliers. Ownership passes to the company at the point of delivery or at the point where the goods are FOV, free on board, FAS, free alongside ship, or CIF. So you guys might get a question on exam saying, what is FOV for inventory account? And you'll have different answers for that. And of course, if you guys go on the correct page, you'll have the answer on there where it says free on board. So go ahead and highlight those for me. Next paragraph, highlight receiving report. And the next paragraph, a manufacturing report should be prepared. A copy passed to the accounting department. The transfer of raw material inventory to value added inventory. 359, inventory items being used on a project should be recorded by the requisitions, which indicate the transfer of inventory to the project. FIFO and LIFO are cost layering methods, first in, first out. And LIFO stands for last in, first out. Highlight this. And item by item, highlight specific cost, highlight average cost, highlight. $363. Tax consideration in the pricing of inventory. Highlight you must account for the state and local sales tax. State sales tax, highlight depending upon whether it is tax exempt or not. Page 365, go ahead and highlight you must remit the total amount collected for both to the state government. Okay, page 371. Okay, so this, okay, so here, as you guys can see, it says types of capital. You guys will definitely get a question from this page. So go ahead and highlight initial startup capital, day-to-day working capital, business growth, expansion cost, debt restructuring. I remember getting a question where it was saying, what are the three types of capital for your business growth? And all I had to do was go in the table of content for chapter 3, and it was right there. Boom. 372. Go ahead on expansion expansion paragraph, and highlight expanding a business usually requires a great deal. Highlight some programs and financial institutions require that you have been in business for at least 2 years, while 5 years is preferred. Highlight both of them. Page 373, go ahead and highlight amount of borrowing for principal. Interest will be amount to be repaid. Term, length of time for which loan is made. So you will get a question about what is term for accounting terminology, and you gotta know what it is. So right there, if you have it highlighted, it's easier. Principal and interest must be paid in total by the end of their term for which loan is made. Rate, okay, so I remember getting a question about this. It was about, I don't exactly remember what the question was, but it was something related to rate. It was something like, oh, what is rate for accounting? And of course I had it highlighted, so it was easier for me. Go ahead and highlight the effective annual rate of interest which will be paid on the principal board. Maturity value, just highlight total principal and interest. Single payment loan, also known as term loan. Go ahead and highlight. Ordinary interest loan, okay, nothing highlighted here. 374, go ahead and highlight discount loan. Actual amount of cash. Second line, difference between cash received and principal due at the end of the loan is known as the discount. Installment loan, a loan on which monthly payments are made even though interest is computed. Okay, we don't have that. Okay, page 377, accumulating construction cost. First line, just highlight labor cost. And then on this paragraph over here, highlight several jobs, contracts in progress. Highlight next paragraph, highlight treat each contract of all the other contracts going on. Next paragraph, second line, highlight job cost records. And then on this paragraph over here, just highlight job cost record. Next page, 378. So one thing I should mention is there's, I think, if I'm not wrong, 3 pages in the whole book that will be talking about types of contracts in construction. And I think I covered one of the pages in another chapter, but this is also one of the pages we have for types of contracts. And if I'm not wrong, there's another chapter in chapter 10, which we'll be covering later in the video. But go ahead and highlight all these contracts that we have here for types of contracts. Now, fixed price contract only highlight amount of work. On a project, contractor is obligated to deliver the product at the price have agreed. Unit price contracts highlight specific work at a fixed price per unit of output. Second line, cubic yard of dirt. Third line, at a given price per cubic yard. You guys will get a question from this paragraph, most definitely. And then cost plus contract, first line, reimbursement of defined cost incurred plus a fee for the contractor's service. And then the fee may be fixed or based on a percentage of reimbursable cost. Cost plus may also contain a ceiling price, cannot exceed the ceiling price. Just highlight the key terms, that's all. Percentage of completion method, highlight percentage of completion, revenue recognition more quickly than the completed contract method. Percentage of completion method is also required for tax purposes for construction companies with $10 million or more in annual sales. Go ahead and highlight that. Next paragraph, highlight the cost to cost method. Page 380, go ahead and highlight $10 million, less than $10 million. It's on the third paragraph for completed contract method. And I'll guarantee you guys, this is one of the questions you guys will get in the exam. And it will be, at what percentage a completed contract is considered completed? And the answer will be in excess of a contract in excess of 98% or 99% completed should be recognized as a complete under the completed contract method. So go ahead and highlight that one. Page 383, go ahead and highlight overhead cost. Examples of such costs are direct labor, material, and performance bond. And then in this paragraph, other expense accounts capture expenses which would be incurred in any case. Last line, office payroll, payroll taxes related to office payroll, rent for the office. Okay, moving on. Page 384. Page 384, overhead expenses. Go ahead and highlight administrative salaries. Go ahead, highlight office expense. And then go ahead and move on to page 389. And this is also an important page. So go ahead and highlight all the stuff you see for financial ratios, liquidity ratios, highlight the meaning of it, highlight leverage ratios, highlight the meaning of it, same for activity ratios, profitability ratios. Also highlight most commonly used liquidity ratios are current ratio and quick ratio. Current ratio, total current assets by the total current liabilities. Quick ratio, by adding cash, account receivables, marketable securities together. Leverage ratios. So as we know, this is a financial management page, which means it talks about accounting and stuff. So all this stuff you guys see over here, you guys will see similar stuff like that on a builder's guide to accounting as well. So if you guys do come across any accounting questions, if you guys don't find it there on the builder's guide to accounting, it will definitely be here on this page of financial management. Let me see if I can pause the video for a little while so I can go grab some coffee, if it will let me. Never mind, there is no coffee for me. Alright, next page. Next page we have 393. Lease the equipment, generally reduce the front end cash outlays. And then the present value method, just highlight present value, present equivalent of the dollars, future time periods. And then return on investment, just highlight that part, and also highlight cashback method. Page 396. Go ahead and highlight FICA. It stands for Federal Insurance Contribution Act. I got a question about that as well on exam. It was asking about FICA and what does it stand for. Services provided by CPA. Go ahead and highlight that, page 398. And I definitely got some questions from this page. So go ahead on the first paragraph, highlight CPA's opinion regarding whether the financial statement, go ahead and highlight, is called an audit. Go ahead and highlight CPA as GAAS. Highlight GAS, highlight CPA, highlight CPA again here, also highlight GAAP, also highlight GAAP, GAAP, and then on this line, which says number 2, highlight may accompany financial statements, which is known as reviewed. Highlight CPA is not required to have any communication. Highlight number 3, may accompany financial statement, which is known as compiled. Highlight CPA, only obligation. Highlight may accompany financial statements. Page 100. Highlight cash management procedure. Highlight cash availability problems. Highlight 5 to 10 days. That's on page 301. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if it's getting recorded on. Yeah, I'm checking on another laptop to see if all the angles are being recorded or not. Sorry about that. Okay, moving on. Nothing much to see here. So these are all the glossary for accounting questions you guys might be coming over. It might ask you what is a back charge, So if you guys see any sort of those terms, you just move on to this page over here, which is 3105, and it will tell you about what is a accounting equation, or what are back charges. I remember I got a question about what are back charges, and common stock, claims, bonus clause. For any sort of those questions, as in like what it stands for, or what is it about, you could just come over to this glossary, and it will tell you guys what it is. Page 3108, definitely go and highlight fiscal year, 12-month period, and then go ahead and highlight front end loading, early stages of a contract, later stages higher than they otherwise. Go ahead and highlight incentives. Okay, so another important page, 3119. Go ahead and highlight sanctions, which is pretty much similar to penalties. We're gonna go over that in a little while. Go ahead and highlight excess of $2,000. Just highlight this whole paragraph over here. Davis-Bacon Act. Highlight CWH SSA violations, $10 per day violation. Go ahead and highlight principal contractor, page 3123. Prime or general contractor. Okay, sorry about all the scratching here. It was my little sister. Anyways, page 3126. Go ahead and highlight prime contractor will be responsible for posting a copy of the wage decision. Page 3128. Certified payroll reports. Highlight weekly certified payroll. First week that your company works on the project. Easiest form to use is DOL WH347. Go ahead and highlight no work payrolls. You do not need to send no work payrolls. This is a question I got as well on the exam. And then page 3129, payroll retention at least 3 years after the project is completed. Working foreman, 20% of the time performing construction. Okay, moving on. Nothing much here. Okay. Page 3138. And last paragraph, notification. The employer / prime contractor is allowed 30 days to correct the underpayments. 340, page 3140. Unfound workers for 3 years after the completion of the project. After 3 years, any amount remaining in the account for unfound workers will be credited or forwarded by the contract administrator to HUD. Okay, page 144. DOL department or debarment found by the Secretary of Labor to be an aggravated or willful violation of the labor standard provision will be ineligible debarred. Contracts for up to 3 years. Just the key terms, highlight those. And then 3.6 falsification of certified payroll reports. Contractors or subcontractors that are found to have willfully falsified payroll reports, including correction certified payroll reports, may be subject to civil or criminal persecution. Penalties may be $1,000 or 1 year in prison for each false statement. Page 3153. This is a really important chapter as well. Not really chapter, but just one of the part of this chapter of financial management. Circular E taxes. This page definitely needs to be tabbed. You guys will have to put a tab on it because you guys will be getting a bunch of questions from this. When I say bunch, I mean like we're talking 6 or 7 questions from this chapter specifically. Why? Circular e-taxes. It's about employer's tax guide, which is very important for anyone running the business. And go ahead and highlight calendar for the table of content. But do take your time and try to go over all these contents on this page. It will help you guys a lot. And if you guys want for some additional stuff, go ahead also highlight filing form 941, form 944. Also highlight FUTA, federal unemployment tax. The letters are like so small on these pages. I'm not even sure if they're gonna be visible on the video or not. But I'll try to read them aloud. I'll try to read them loud so you guys can hear it. Hiring employees, hiring new employees, eligibility for employment. You must verify that each new employee is legally eligible to work. Highlight that part. Also highlight new hire reporting any new employee to a designated state. Highlight at least 60 consecutive days. Highlight W4 request. Ask each new employee to complete the 2021 Form W4. Okay, that's it for this page. And then page 7, go ahead and highlight non-payroll income tax. And also highlight payments subject to backup withholding, including interest, dividends, patronage dividends, rents, royalties, commissions. Highlight social security tax, highlight Medicare tax. That's on page 159. Another important page here is record keeping. Keep all the records of employment taxes for at least 4 years. Okay, highlight that part, and then next page 3161. Go ahead and highlight calendar. Go ahead and highlight by January. File form 941 or form 944 for the fourth quarter. And then less than $2,500. Next page. If you timely deposit all taxes when due, you may file by February 10. Highlight you may file by February 10. Highlight Form 1099 NEC to pays for non-employee compensation. Highlight file Form 945. If you deposited all taxes when due, you may file by February 10. Highlight by February 10. No, highlight by February 15. I'm sorry. And then highlight on February 16. One more thing, guys. If you guys are watching the video, try to increase the quality of video on the settings. Try to set it to 1080p so you guys can at least see all these little words we have here. Because I doubt it if the internet is bad wherever you guys are watching it from. Because YouTube automatically lowers the quality of the video if the internet connection is not that good. So make sure you guys set the settings to 1080p so you guys can see some of the words here that I'm highlighted. Okay, so in this paragraph, just highlight if the employee doesn't give you a renew, if the employee doesn't give you a new form W4, if the employee gives you a new form W4 again after February 15, by February 28th, by March 31st, by April 30, July 31st, October 31st, and January 31st. If over $500, if $500 or less, carry it over to the next quarter, file Form 941. You may pay these taxes with Form 941 if your total tax liability for the quarter is less than $2,500. Timely deposited all taxes when due. File by May 10, August 10, November 10, or February 10. Nothing on this page. Next page, 3164. Go ahead and highlight employer identification number. EIN is a 9-digit number the IRS issues. And this paragraph highlight doctors, lawyers, veterinarians, and others in an independent trade in which they offer their service to the public are usually not employees. Highlight incorporated corporate officers who work in the business are employees of the corporation. And then the next paragraph highlight employee may be called an agent or independent contractor. Next page 3165. Go ahead and highlight IRS help if you want the IRS to determine whether a worker is an employee. File form SS8. And then page 3166, family employees, payments for the services of a child under the age of 18. A trade or business are subject to Social Security and Medicare tax. Business is a sole proprietorship or a partner. Highlight they are not subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes until the age reaches age 71. Subject to income tax withholding less than $50 in the quarter or the child isn't regularly employed. Next page. I'm just gonna read the lines you guys need to highlight and I'll leave the rest. Employee Social Security number SSN. You are required to get each employee's name and SSN. Applying for a Social Security card and the employee and submitting the necessary documentation. Page 3170. Valuation of fringe benefits. You must determine the value of fringe benefits no later than January 31st of the next year. Depositing taxes on fringe benefits. Tips on the next page 3171. Tipped employees must report tips to you. No report is required for months when tips are less than $20. Tax once wages and tips exceed $200,000 in the calendar year. Page 3172. Go ahead and highlight $20 or more of tips in a month are also subject to feeder tax. Page 3175. Form W4 remains in effect for 2021 unless the employer gives you a 2021 Form W4. Page 3176. Non-resident alien. Page 3177. Oh, actually, on page 3176, go ahead and also highlight seasonal employees. You guys will get a question about that. Also, highlight within 12 months, exceed 12 months. Next page 3177, highlight W4. Highlight who submits a false form W4 may be subject to a penalty of $500. Highlight Social Security, Medicare tax, page 3178. Highlight all the percentage you guys see over here. For example, 6.2% and 12.4%. Highlight 6.2% again, and then highlight Social Security wage-based limit is $142,800. Tax rate for Medicare is 1.45%, and also highlight 2.9% total. Highlight 1.45%. Highlight in excess of $200,000. Highlight on the next page, go ahead and highlight a payment with a timely file form 941. Highlight 941. Highlight monthly and semi-weekly. When to deposit. You guys will also get a question on this one as well. When to deposit. There are two deposit schedule, monthly and semi-weekly. Next page, 3180. Look back period and highlight for quarter. Look back period for calendar year. Highlight monthly schedule depositor. Highlight deposit employment tax. 15th day of the following month. Highlight semi-weekly schedule depositor. Highlight summary of steps to determine your deposit schedule. Highlight semi-weekly. Highlight deposits due on business days only. Highlight have at least 3 business days. Highlight this allows 3 business days to make the deposit. Highlight accumulate $100,000. Monthly schedule depositor, $2,500 or more. Semi-weekly depositor. Next paragraph. First Wednesday or Friday, 15th day of the month. Then 3183. On this paragraph, how to deposit. Highlight EFTPS. And then same day wire payment option. Okay, so this is a question you guys will definitely get. I mean, you might, not sure about definitely, but go ahead and highlight if you fail to submit a deposit transaction on EFTPS by 8 p.m. So go ahead and highlight the time here, 8 p.m. Deposit penalties, it's 2%. If you guys deposit made 1 to 5 days late. If it's more than 6 to 15 days, 5%. If it's more than 16 or more days late, it's gonna be 10%. If it's and so on and so on. So go ahead and highlight those for me. Then page 3184, penalty is 100%. And then page 3185, federal income tax, you must file Form 941. Highlight calendar. Highlight seasonal employers who don't have to file. Okay, that's it for this page. Highlight before the last day of the calendar year. If you guys highlighting all the key terms that I'm highlighting here, you guys won't have to highlight any additional stuff from this book. I will definitely promise you guys that. Because with the stuff that I have highlighted here, I have tried all those questions from different courses that I took from online, and I I never had to highlight anything else because most of these key terms that I have, I already have them highlighted. So whenever I came across any of those questions, it was easier for me because most of the things I have it here like highlighted already. Okay, page 3191. You were subject to FUTA. You paid wages of $1,500 or more. You employed 10 or more farm workers. The FUTA tax rate is 6%, 5% of FUTA taxable wages. The FUTA tax rate after the maximum, if you're entitled to the maximum 5.4% credit, the FUTA tax rate after the credit is 0.6%. Highlight that. Successor employees, if you acquired a business from an employer who was liable for FUTA tax, you may be able to count the wages that the employer paid when you figure the $7,000 FUTA tax. Amount of taxable wages paid during the quarter about 0.6. He or she reaches $7,000 in taxable wages. Calendar year is $500 or less. Highlight quarter from when to deposit FUTA taxes. However, if you deposit all the FUTA tax when due, you may file on or before February 10, 2021. With that being said, I think we are done with chapter 3. Right now, we're gonna go ahead and get started with chapter 4. Before I do that, I'm gonna take a break for 2 or 3 minutes. If you guys wanna go ahead and take a break as well, I'm gonna go ahead and grab something real quick to eat. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it here as a reminder that we took a break around 58 minutes of this live video. I don't wanna make you guys wait anymore. So we're gonna get started with the video. Now let's talk about chapter 4 for a little bit. This chapter will be covering a lot of things about bond cost, like some of the penalties, and then insurance policies, what coverage you need, and all those sort of things. So let's get started. First page. Go ahead and try to get familiar with the table of contents we have here. Read about all these type of bonds we have here. Bid bonds, performance bonds, payment bonds, supply bond. And then we also have financial statements, income recognition, ratios, debt to equity, contracts. You guys will also get to know about the bond costs, premiums, and all those sorts of good stuff. Okay, so page 6 of chapter 4. Go ahead and highlight bodily injury and property damage, and then move on to property loss exposure. Highlight property insurance policies. Highlight $7,500 of loss. Highlight $10,000 fire loss. Highlight building insurance. Highlight $80,000. Pretty much highlight all the numbers you guys see over here. The insured is penalized $2,500 for not insuring. Property insurance may be purchased under one of the 3 causes of loss forms: basic, broad form, and special perils. Basic form, a broad form policy. And then special form. Special form is that coverage for theft is provided. And then move on to the next page. Property insurance policies, computer and related type IT, valuable paper and records, installation floaters. I got a question from this one. Installation floaters, covering subcontractor materials while in transit or while stored at temporary location. Business automobile insurance, builder's risk coverage may be extended to cover materials while in transit or at temporary storage facilities. Flood insurance protects crime exposures, blanket crime policies against employee dishonesty, loss of money, and security loss. Counterfeit paper, comprehensive dishonesty, loss due to dishonesty of employees. We have fidelity bonds, employee dishonesty coverage for contractors, loss due to embezzlement. I got a question about the fidelity bond as well. And then go ahead and highlight inland marine insurance, machinery and equipment. Move on to financial loss exposure. Highlight business interruption insurance, business income insurance, business income loss, cover losses to property, cause a decrease in revenue or increase in expense. Business liability exposure, highlight bodily injury, property damage, or other injury caused by the actions of employees or subcontractors. Commercial general liability policy for bodily injury and property damage liability losses arising out of property it owns, or leases. A general aggregate limit is the most insurance company will pay in any 1 year, regardless of the number of occurrence while construction is going on, completed operations, bodily injury, or property damage after all the work has been completed, completed operations, medical expense coverage limit is usually $5,000 or $10,000. Exculpatory clause. I got a question about this one. Exculpatory clause. Indemnification clause. Indemnitor, contractor, compensate indemnity, owner, architect, engineer, hold the harmless provision, standard insurance services. Wait, we're forgetting something here. Contractual liability exclusion, highlight bodily injury or property damage. Page 10, chapter 4. Highlight insured contract. Highlight employee benefits liability. Highlight employment practices liability. Highlight per $1 million of coverage up to any amount required or desired for umbrella liability policy. Highlight organization can also suffer financial loss due to death or disability of key personnel. Highlight premiums for property coverage. Next page, 412, builder's risk, annual premium, maximum values, actual values, property rates, automobile rates, by size of vehicle. That's a question you guys might get on exam about automobile rates, distance of travel, various use of the vehicle. A contractor should regularly, every 6 months or at least annually, review the driving record of his employee. Loss control personnel. Suretyship. Surety is a promise by the surety. Suretyship is a promise by the surety guarantor. Oblige owner. Principal contractor. Indemnity is a legal principle offering the guarantee. Surety will be indemnified. Indemnity agreement. Next page, 413, 413. Premium as a fee for credit investigation and pre-qualification. 1894, Congress passed the HURD Act. Unpaid subcontractors. HURD Act was supplanted by Miller Act in 1935. I did get a question about the HURD Act and about the year and everything, so go ahead and highlight that. It's also called Little Miller Acts. Highlight that. Surety bonds are required for contractors performing public and private work in order to protect the funds from his subcontractor to guarantee the subcontractor's performance on the project. types of bond. Go ahead and highlight types of bond: bid bond, performance bond, payment bond, conditional payment bond, maintenance bond, and supply bond. Bid bond: contractors is awarded the bid. He will enter into a contract at the price stipulated in the bid proposal. For a feature obligation, if you are a low bidder, you do not enter into a contract according to the bid documents. You will forfeit the bid amount stated on the bid bond. Difference in bid. If you are a low bidder and do not enter into a contract according to the bid documents, the next qualified responsible bidder, limited to an amount not to exceed the amount stipulated on the bid bond. Performance bond will perform the work according to the contract terms. Conditional payment bond guarantee a lien-free project. I got a question from this one as well. Performance and payment bond. Combined performance and payment bond. Maintenance bond includes a 12-month maintenance period. Supply bond: materials or products will arrive on time. Page 415, bond limit is 10% of the capital. 3 C's on underwriting. This is a question you guys will guarantee will get in the exam. 3 important C's. Those are character, capacity, and capital. And out of all these 3 C's, capital refers to the contractor's financial status and bill paying ability. And the third one, which is capital, is the most important, is the most, by far, the most important of the 3. For without the financial resources to meet the obligation. So you guys might get a question, out of all the 3s, which one is more important? It's the third one, which is capital. Next one, 415, default. Contractor defaults, surety can finance, surety can rebid, negotiate or litigate the surety's liability, least desirable for owner. Surety can complete the project, least desirable for the surety. Last line, types of information requested by the surety, last 3 years. And then page 416, audit requires, review is less, compilation is very limited. Page 417, completed contract, peer accrual, percentage of completion, ratios, various ratios in determining the liquidity of the contractor. Contractor's net quick times a factor of 10. Net quick is cash, account receivables, billings, and estimated earnings minus all kind of liabilities. This is something you guys will be using for those math questions. There's examples of it as well over here. What does a bond cost? Contractor price times a stipulated rate per 1,000 for the first 12 months of a contract. Sureties may vary from 1% to 5% of the contract price. And then over here, this is something you guys will be using for the math question. Shorty Association rate for a Class B contract, 1% per month. SBA bonding guarantee program. Um, Program guarantee says 70 to 90% of the shortest risk. Maximum single bond amount is $6,500,000 over a 3-year period. Contractor a premium $7.29 per thousand. SBA receives 26% of the bond premium. Collateral, fund administration, increase the comfort level. Escrow administration, payment bond, and then performance bond. Just the key term, guys. As I mentioned before, we don't want to be highlighting the whole book. Okay, nothing much here. Imagine memorizing this whole thing here. Crazy. Yeah, we don't need none of those pages. So whatever we highlighted for chapter 4, that's all we need for chapter 4. Now we are in chapter 5, labor and employment laws. Another important chapter. Now take your time to go over this table of contents for chapter 5, labor laws. Go ahead and highlight duty to bargain. Go ahead and highlight Fair Labor Standard X, FLC, FLSA, exemptions, record keeping, child labor regulation, unemployment benefits, immigration reform, control of act, special issues relating to construction industry. Now, I understand, guys, it's not possible to memorize every single thing from these pages, but one thing we could definitely do is get familiar with table of contents, so whenever we come across questions, then we know immediately which which page we need to go over. Now, of course, the first thing we do is we go take a look at our table of contents, as I mentioned before. Not table of contents, it's index. Now, if we can't find it in our index, that's when we go manually by our table of contents. But it's good to be real familiar with all these table of contents that we have. Okay, first page, 511, Fair Labor Standard X, FLSA, Wage and Hour Law. 513, neither party is required to make particular proposals or concessions. 514, an unfair labor practice charge, regional office, unfair labor within 6 months of alleged violation. Coverage, Florida right to work laws, federal enclaves, military excuse me, exceptions to coverage, federal enclaves, military bases, employees working for airlines or railroads, union shop within 30 days of hire, agency shop agreement is not forced to join, maintenance of membership, Fair Labor Standard X, general requirements, FLSA is a federal statute which prescribes minimum wages of $7.25 per hour for non-overtime work, excess of 40 in any work week, certain record-keeping requirements, $500,000 are covered, exemptions, sales employees, certain computer-related employees. Last paragraph, exemptions, compensated on a salary or fee basis, less than $913 per week. Exemptions apply only to computer employees, which primary duty consists of regular rate of pay, regular rate of pay may be more than federal statutory minimum $7.25, but it cannot be less. And also highlight the last lines here. Footnote 1, in Florida as of January 1st, 2021, the rate is $8.65 per hour, will increase to $10 per hour on September 30, 2021. The rate will increase every September 30 for next 5 years until it reaches $15 per hour. Hourly rate employees, 1/2 of the hourly rate, over 40 in 1 week, $7.25. Hourly rate exemptions, hourly rate employees, non-discretionary bonus, hourly rate and bonus. Page 526. A bonus need not to be included in the regular rate. Retains discretion. Bonus will be paid. The amount is not determined. Gifts, Christmas, and special occasion bonuses. It may be excluded from the regular rate. Next page, 527. Pay for foregoing holidays and vacation. Vacation pay is excluded from the regular rate of pays. Page 528. On-call pay. Required to leave word where they may be reached. 529. Work week exceeding 40 hours. 1/2 the regular rate of pay. Overtime pay may not be waived. Requirement that overtime must be paid after 40 hours a week may not be waived by agreement between the employer and employees. That's a question you guys will get in the exam. Page 530. Record keeping. Hard records such as payroll, employment contracts. Purchase records for 3 years. So-called soft records must be kept for 2 years. These would include time cards or time sheets. Construction industry child labor restriction requirement prohibition. Type of work. Children aged 15 and under may not be employed. In a number of occupations, including construction. Children aged 16 and 17 may work in construction-related operation. Now, about the ages of children and stuff, there will be questions from this page as well. Under child labor laws, under the Florida statutes, section 450061, no minor under 18 years of age is permitted to work in any of the following occupation. the conditions for student learners set forth in the statutes above 6 feet, and slaughtering, meat packing, processing, rendering. Hours as to hours under FLCA, minors who are 14 and 15 may work. Next page. 532 for minors age 14 and 15. The allowable work hours are 15 hours for minors age 16 and 17. Allowable work hours are 30 hours a week, 8 hours a day between 6:30 a.m. and 11 p.m. They're also going to ask you about the timing, so make sure you guys have these timings highlighted. Enforcement and penalties. Employers are subject to a civil money penalty of up to $11,000, $10,000 for violation occurring prior to January 7, 2002. Civil penalty up to $50,000 in each case of death or serious injury, $100,000 for repeated or willful violation. Employers have right to file exception to the determination within 15 days of receipt of the notice of such penalty. Florida statutes makes it a second-degree misdemeanor to violate child labor laws. Second-degree misdemeanor is punishable by a definite term of imprisonment not exceeding 60 days and a $500 fine. Penalties, sanctions. Secretary of Labor may, underpayment up to 3 years may also be imposed. That's for Davis-Bacon Act. Next page, 534. Go ahead and highlight all employers, 15 or more, each of 20 or more, and for enforcement, paragraph second, highlight 300 days of an event. Next page, 535. Go ahead and highlight if 180 days. Go ahead and highlight EEOC will issue a notice of right to sue. Go ahead and highlight 90 days after receiving the notice. Go ahead and highlight Equal Pay Act. Highlight within 180 days. Highlight 180-day filing. 300 days if the charge also is covered. Highlight maximum compensatory punitive damages for plaintiff, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. FCRA, Florida Civil Rights Act of 1992. One thing that I mentioned in the exam, that is, I saw this question. It was about Florida Civil Rights Act of 1992, but instead of writing Florida Civil Rights Act, they wrote Florida Human Rights Act of 1992. So they'll try to trick you guys with some of these wordings on the question. So don't get nervous when you see stuff like that. Go ahead and highlight FCRA, 15 or more employees, 20 or more calendar weeks. Page 536, Florida AIDS statute, AIDS, ARC, or HIV. Alcoholism is also a protected handicap. Relation has yet to rule that drug abuse is a handicap because the possession of drugs is unlawful. For enforcement, within 365 days of alleged violation, go ahead and highlight 180 days. As you guys can see here, instead of writing it in numbers, they are writing in letters. So when you go to exam, you guys might see stuff in numbers, and when you look for it over here, you're not gonna find it unless you read it. But the trick is, it's in letter instead of being in number. So make sure you guys are reading. Damages limited to 100,000. Back pay liability limited to 2 years prior, 1 year after the final FCHR action. Next, page 537, section 1981, initiated within 4 years, 20 or more employees for age discrimination for each working day in 20 calendar weeks. Enforcement within 300 days of the alleged discriminatory act, or 30 days, whichever is earlier. Charging party must wait 60 days before proceeding in the court. Okay, page 539. Highlight EPA within 2 years of discriminatory practice. For filing suit is 3 years. Sanction penalties, award up to 2 years or 3 years if the action is willful. Back pay under the EPA, as in ADEA litigation, double back pay and extended to 3 years if a willful violation is found. Florida equal pay statutes, back pay limited to 1 year. Statutes of limitation is 6 months. Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 FMLA, coverage employed 50 or more. Prohibitions, 12 weeks of unpaid, any 12-month period for the birth, 26 week of unpaid leave, any 12-month period. Enforcement, an employee may bring suit in state. Suits may not be brought later than 2 years after the violation, unless violation was willful, extended to 3 years. Liable for lost wages, sum equal to 12 weeks of wages. And then page 541, physical or mental impairment, one or more of the major life activities. I'm just reading all the key terms, so we're not wasting any times here and just focusing on what we need. Page 542, ADA defines or stands for defines reasonable accommodation. Illustrative list of examples. An employer is not required to offer all possible reasonable accommodation. Medical examination. Pre-employment medical examinations are prohibited with the exception of inquiries of an applicant. Post-offer, during employment, generally employee medical examinations are generally prohibited. Exceptions, treatment of illegal use of drugs. Illegal drugs are excluded from the protection of ADA. Current use means use recently enough to indicate an employer is authorized to drug test to determine current use. 544 requirement prohibitions prohibits employment discrimination, HIV related, AIDS, ARC, HIV, every protection available to handicapped persons, Federal Rehabilitation Act, $5,000 actual damages, whichever is greater, Public Whistleblower Act, independent contractors, contract with state, local government, disclosing their employer's violation of law, pose a danger to public health, safety, or welfare, veteran reemployment laws, requirement prohibition, military leave within 1 year after date of reemployment was more than 180 days, or within 180 days was more than 30 days but less than 181 days. 546, 100,000 or more, 180 days of alleged violation. Okay, page 549, middle of the page, penalties and sanctions against smoking, fine of up to $100 for a first offense, up to $500 for each subsequent offense. $550, Act does not require drug testing. Next page, 551, Act of 1988, exceptions, connection with an ongoing investigation involving economic loss or injury to the employer's business, penalties, $10,000 for violation. Page 552, unemployment benefits, one or more employees, paid $1,500 in wages, exemptions to the construction industry, unemployment compensation taxes, a covered employer obligated to pay, federal excise tax, state unemployment contributions, percentage of total wages paid, must file tax reports, unemployment taxes, end of the month following the end of the quarter, at least 1 week, misconduct, deliberate violation or disregard, standards of behaviors, negligence to a degree or recurrence, wrongful intent, absenteeism or tardiness, violation of a known policy, willful and deliberate violation of a standard, violation of an employer's rule, 1/26 of the individuals not less than $32 or more than $275, benefits equal to 25% of the total wages in his or her base period, not to exceed $6,325. Record keeping for 5 years. Penalties, $25 per report for each 30-day period. Criminal, making a false statement or report in connection with administration of the unemployment compensation laws, can be fined up to $5,000. or $5,000 for up to 5 years. Habitual offender can be imprisoned for up to 10 years. Okay. Willfully fails or refuses to file a report required by law can be fined up to $10,000 or imprisoned for up to 15 years. So guys, find sort of like this acts for instance, sort of act, unemployment benefits, contracts, reporting act, or Florida Clean Indoor Air Act. It's very simple to find all of these. Look, I have a beautiful tab over here. It says index. And if I go over here and just go to acts right here, I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not, but on this act, I have all sort of acts here: age discrimination, AIDS, civil rights of 1964, Copeland Act, disability, and then clean indoor air. I have all sorts of act, Miller Act, everything. It's listed over here. So that's another alternative. It's helpful if you guys go on index. It will pretty much cover a lot of the stuff for you guys. Okay, so I think we're on page 554, and on 554 we have first page: willfully violates provision of the unemployment compensation laws, $10,000 for up to 15 years. Workers' compensation law coverage, 4 or more employees, and then 1 or more employees are covered. Use safety devices, his or her benefits will be reduced by 1/4. And then we have $500 or imprisonment for not more than 1 year. Okay, and then we have next page 556. We got a qualified beneficiary greater than 102% of the applicable premium. Qualified beneficiaries, qualifying events. COBRA requires for 36 months unless the loss of coverage. Coverage is 18 months. Disabled person can be continued for 29 months. Next page 557. Employment verification under IRCA. An employer must verify the identity of all new employees as well as the individual's eligibility. Form 109, employment eligibility verification form. I got a question from this one as well, and as you guys can see, I have this page tabbed as well. Tabbing that saved me so much time, just having things tabbed. Okay, also make sure you guys are highlighting I-9 must be completed by the employer within 3 business days from the day the employee begins work. 558, record keeping 3 years after the date of hire or 1 year after the date that the individual no longer works for the employer. First offense, $275 to $2,200 per unauthorized employee. Pattern and practice of hiring unauthorized aliens can be subject to criminal penalties, up to 6 months imprisonment, fine of $3,000 for each unauthorized alien. Paperwork violation, IRCA verification procedures. Civil fines for paperwork violation range from $110 to $1,100. 559 page, Florida law, illegal for an employer, alien who is not duly authorized. Penalties, civil fine. Penalties, first violation, civil fine, no more than $500. for a second in each subsequent violation, can be fined up to $500 or imprisoned for up to 60 days for each unauthorized alien involved. Workers adjustment, 100 or more full-time employees. Nothing much to see here. And like I said, guys, you will see some of these pages. You won't need any of this stuff here. That's why I didn't have them highlighted, because it's important, but it's not important enough for exam. See if I can just skip through these. Yeah, these are just drawings. Yeah, nothing here. Only thing I do have highlighted, it's on page 5136, exempt and non-exempt work. I don't ever remember going to this page for any of the questions in the exam, but like I said, guys, you won't be needing to go too detailed in this for some of these pages, because most of the stuff we have them highlighted already in those main pages. So these things we could just skip through it and get to our main pages. Yeah, we don't need these pages. For business and finance exam, we don't need to worry about this fire prevention and control. As I mentioned before, these pages are important, but they're not. We should read through this. But to pass the exam for business and finance, we don't need to highlight these things. Okay, so this page has to be tabbed, just like the circular tax E page that we just like the circular tax E page we went to. This page is also important, so make sure you guys have it tabbed. Reemployment tax guide, and go ahead and highlight quarterly payroll for $1,500 or more. Go ahead and highlight one or more employees, 20 weeks in a calendar. Go ahead and highlight have 5 or more workers for a day. Highlight with the cash payroll of $1,000 or more. Also go ahead and highlight Federal Unemployment Tax Act during any 20 weeks in a calendar year. What else? It must sign a special election form and stay with the chosen method for at least 2 years. Okay, page 277. Go ahead and highlight employment not covered. Types of work are not covered by reemployment assistance. Employees of a church, convention, association of churches, organization, religious, services performed by aliens working on a fishing vessel under 10 net tons. I got a question for this one. It was asking about the tonnage for employment not covered. And then also go ahead and highlight persons under age 18 delivering or distributing newspaper under the age of 21. Exemption does not apply to corporation. Services performed by a sole proprietor or partner, member of a limited liability company, federal income tax purposes, partnership or sole proprietorship. Services performed by insurance agents. What else? Alright, moving on to the next page, 5278. Reporting wages. Wages must be reported on an employer's quarterly report, RT6. And then report shall be billed a penalty of $50 or 10% of any tax due. Penalty shall not exceed $300. Electronic filing and payment. You must file an employer's quarterly report, RT6, 10 or more employees in any quarter. Fiscal year July 1st to June 30. Penalty for failure to file a report, $25 per report, $1 for each employee. How much do you pay? Tax rate for new employers, 2.7%, $7,000 in wages. When the business is transferred, successor may count wages. Form RT6 and F, out-of-state wages. And that's for page 5278. Important to report timely, 1 month, end of each quarter. Reports and pay tax. Late filing penalty charged at $25 each 30 days. Tax rate 2.7% for 10 quarters. Determine the succession. Applicants for transfer of experience ratings records, RTS 1S, within 90 days of the date the succession commenced. Maximum tax rate 5.4%. You may appeal the tax rate within 20 days from the date of notification. Termination of coverage by April 30 of the following year. And then page 281, it's a part of tax guide reemployment page. Let's go ahead and highlight FUTA, also highlight report and succession, highlight taxable wages and exempt wages, highlight penalty for failure to file, benefits of filing, timely reporting, tax audits, tax rate. Alright, page 282, highlight determine whether employee or an independent contractor. RT6, highlight SUDA, deposited Florida Unemployment Compensation Trust. Highlight business is liable for state reemployment tax, has paid $1,500 in wages. Any portion of a day in 20 different weeks within the same calendar. Next page, highlight 20 different weeks. Wages paid were less than $1,500 in any one quarter. Domestic employers, $1,000 in wages. Voluntary coverage, April 30 to terminate coverage for current year. Next page, 5284, employment not covered, sole proprietor, services by employees of a church, convention, association of churches, organization, religious purposes, supervised, controlled, church, convention, association of churches. Successor, next page, successor accounts, tax rate. Leasing company must notify the department within 30 days of the initiation of the termination. Payrolling, payrolls for 2 or more employers. And then employers must submit a report every quarter, regardless of the employment, taxable wage base during a calendar year, and then prices over $25. Next page, which is 5289, and then exempt wages paid to employees of an organization for religious purposes, licensed minister of a church in the exercise of the ministry or by a member of a religious order and the exercise of duties required by such an order. All right, 5290, cafeteria plan payments. Go ahead and highlight that one. I had this one in the exam. Cafeteria plan payments, if they are not reportable to the Internal Revenue Services. Penalty for failure to file electronically. Penalty of $25 per report, $1 for each employee. $25 per remittance submission. Next page, 291, $5 installment fee is required. $25 for each 30 days. Report is late. 5292, 20 days of an employee's hire date, new hire. And then employer account change, form RTS, reopen an account, application DR1. And then we have tax rate, method of determining varying tax rates, experience rating. I got a question about this one as well, experience rating. Page 5294, 2.7%, 5.4%, 20 days from the date, the reemployment tax rate, and the employer who billed for an outstanding tax debt for 1 year or longer. Penalty tax rate of 5.4%, successor accounts, RTS 1S within 30 days, mandatory transfers, employers must notify the department. within 90 days after the date of transfer. 90% of the amount that would have been allowable as a credit. $3,000 in the base period would be charged 50% of the benefits. $297 cafeteria plan exemptions. Excess wages $7,000. Independent contractor. $5,298 tax rate 2.7%, and then page 299 monetary qualification. I got a question from this table of content as well. Monetary qualification. Monetary qualification: an unemployed worker can qualify for the benefits. First four of the last five completed calendar, filing the claim in 2 or more quarter of the base period, $3,400 in the base period, at least 1.5 times the higher quarter wages. Page 5300, 25%, benefits ranging from 12 weeks. Page 5303, any appeal must be filed within 20 days. Initial tax rate 2.7%, standard tax rate 5.4%, maximum tax rate 5.4%. And that ends our chapter 5. We will be moving on to chapter 6. I don't know how much time do we have left. I will have to go somewhere in a bit, but I'll try to wrap as much as I can for this book today. Let me go ahead and charge my phone as well before it dies. Okay, let's see if I can connect it from the other side. All right. Chapter 6 talks about workers' compensation. So take your time and try to go over all these table of contents for a little while. If you guys want, you can pause the video for a bit. Now go ahead and highlight exemption eligibility, employer's exemption information. Go ahead and highlight the first line. Workers' Compensation Act is applicable to an employer in the construction industry who employs one or more employees. Construction limited liability company members are considered corporate officers. Proof of workers' compensation. Election to be exempt. Construction industry means for profit activities involving in the building, clearing, filling, excavation, or substantial improvement. Chapter 6 and page 6 as well. Go ahead and highlight exempt classification. Now it's also guaranteed you guys will also get a question from this one as well, from this page as well. The following activities are not construction jobs as their term is used in the workers' compensation statutes. And take the time to go through this as well. General contractor must obtain a certificate of insurance from the subcontractor. Certificate is not available. A premium will be charged. Policy is non-renewed. Contractor is entitled to recover Subcontractor, all benefits to pay plus interest. Subcontractor will knowingly presents false information as to the existence of coverage when in fact there is none, commits a third-degree felony. That's a question we might see in the exam as well. Any person knowingly makes any false or misleading statement of avoiding or diminishing the amount of the payment compensation premium commits a felony of third degree. Excluded agricultural labor for which no coverage is required, 5 or fewer regular employees, 45 days in a calendar year. A sole proprietor or partner in the construction industry considered to be an employee. A sole proprietor actively engaged elects to be exempt, may not recover workers' compensation benefits. Employee cannot be required to sign a statement that he will not seek to obtain workers' compensation if injured on your job. Okay. Premium reduction. Deductible coverage. Application of the appropriate premium reduction percentage. Deductible amount under miscellaneous values. May choose to insure themselves. Freestanding. Coverage is controlled by the Department of Labor, Employment Security. Allows for employers to provide workers' compensation coverage by individually paying benefits. Requirements to qualify as self-assured insured. 44038, 440 440 and that's on chapter 6, page 9. Miscellaneous coverage plans. Wrap-up policy with the savings retro plans, employer payout of benefits, savings in overall, excess losses, risk of pain, excess, approved safety, drug-free work, special discounts. Insurers cannot discriminate against you. Misdemeanor of the second degree, not to have the required coverage. You can lose your license. Has the choice of physician for the injured worker. Initial physician refers to an injured worker to another doctor. Authorization first to be obtained from the employer. Injured worker is not required to pay anything towards his medical bills. Expenses in excess of that paid by the insurance company should not be paid. Employee or employer. The injured worker is entitled to 2/3 of his average weekly wage for the healing period. First 7 days of disability are not paid unless work for more than 21 days. And a weekly benefit is set each January 1, and the maximum for 2016 is $863. Should that occur, the employee's beneficiaries are entitled up to $150,000 in death benefits, plus $7,500 in funeral cost. Responsibilities after the accident. Safety rules and regulations, since if there can be possibly be a 25% reduction in the employee's workers' compensation benefit if an accident does in fact occur. Injured worker has 30 days in which to advise the employer that an accident occurred. Page 12, within 7 days. Report to the carrier a notice of an injury. Failure to report this injury, $2,000 fine. First aid case, 7 days, do not need to report it. Notice of injury, 7 days. Injury accident resulting, death of an employee, 24 hours. Workers' compensation, employers must retain a copy of all information. First report of accident, 2 years and 6 months. Any violation of the rule for reporting accidents, subject the employer penalty of up to $500. Return to work process. Employee is not required to return to work until so advised. Physician advises insurance provider, employer of the return to work date, but not the employee. Written verification to the employee. 3 strikes, you're out. Page 614. Wage loss, benefits are denied. Over 50% of all the benefits paid in the workers' compensation. And then to comprehend what effect workers' compensation, payroll, per $100 of the payroll, comparison to other employers within your industry is known as the experience modification, experience mod. Go ahead and highlight page 623, employers who have 4 or more employees. For agriculture, there are 6 regular employees. This page, we don't necessarily have to highlight much from here. Like I said, these are not the main pages we will be going to for exams. Okay, so this is an important page, and I hope you guys put a tab on this page. That's the workers' compensation law. Like this chapter, it's also called the chapter because it's a part of it. But here, if you come over here, it's just like an index, like the big index we have here, and this is an index for workers' compensation. And through this index, we can also navigate to a different part of this chapter. But I would like to show you guys some of the important highlights I have for this index of chapter 6 workers' compensation. First one, let's get started with 440021, exemptions of workers' compensation. And then 44005, election of exemptions. 44006, failure to secure compensation. 44093, mental and nervous injuries. 44102, drug-free workplace program. 4401051, fraud reports, penalties. 44107, department powers to enforce employer compliance with coverage requirements. That's an important one. 440.112.12, limits on weekly rate of compensation. 440.125, medical records and reports. 440.13, medical services, penalty for a violation. 440.14, determination of pay. That's an important one as well. 440.15, compensation and disability. 440.185, injury or death. 440.19, time bars to filing petition for benefits. 440.20, for the payment of compensation, penalties for late payments. 440.21, 271, judge of compensation claims. 443.5, record of injury or death. 443.8, security for compensation. 443.81, application for coverage requirement. For application for coverage, reporting payroll. 443.86, individual self-insurers. 444.0, compensation notice. Next page, 667, 444.91, reemployment of injured workers. 445.52, 445.15, self-insurers. 445.2, cancellation or expiration or revocation. 445.4, violation of child labor laws. Let's go over these things that we just highlighted. First one, 668, construction industry, for profit activities involving in the building, clearing, filing, and excavation. I'm not sure if you guys remember or not, but on those other main pages that we had before, we already had this part highlighted. So like I said, some of these pages, we will be repeating some of the stuff that we already highlighted in the other pages we had. Now let's move on to page 672, 20 days of such notices. 20 days of such notice. Page 673, a certificate of election to be exempt. 2 years from its issue date, exemption certificate. Right underneath 2 years. Page 674, notice requirement. Fewer than 4 employees, so shall post clear written notice in a conspicuous location at each work site directed to all employees. Failure to secure compensation, fails to secure the payment as provided by 44010. Page 678, if a contractor or a third-party payer becomes liable for the payment, who is engaged has elected to be exempt from the provisions. Claimant or corporations, all benefits paid or payable plus interest. If an employer if an employer fails to secure compensation, penalty not to exceed $5,000 for each employee or that employee, or for each employee of that employer. 679, drug-free workplace program. 680, within 5 working days after receiving written notification of the test result. Also highlight medical review officer. 681, 12B, at least 60 days elapsed between a general one-time notice to all employees to provide a 60-day notice period. All right, nothing here, but we have 685, competitive bidder. Number 3, winning bidder, 30% of the total, or $15,000, whichever is greater. 5, 2 years after the performance of activities involving prohibited activities, a felony or misdemeanor under this chapter, Division of Investigative or Forensic Services, is not begun within 60 days of the Bureau's report. Page 687, Department powers to enforce employment or compliance with coverage requirements. 688, issue stop work orders. 10 business days after the receipt of the written request, shall issue a stop work order within 72 hours. A stop work order may be served. SSA, penalty of $1,000 per day. stop work order. Or B, 10 business days. C, $10,000 penalty, 25% reduction, $5,000 for each employee. Employers represents to the department as an independent contractor. $691 for 7 days disability. Injury results in more than 21 days of disability. Compensation is allowed. $692 alternate medical care, attendant care. $693 physician shall prescribe such care in writing. Employer or carrier shall not be responsible for such care until the prescription for attendant care is received by the employer and carrier. Members employed provide attendant a total of 12 hours per day. Carrier has right to transfer the care of an injured employee from the attending healthcare provider if an independent medical examination determines that the employee is not making appropriate progress in recuperation. Upon the written request of the employee, carrier shall give the employee the opportunity for 1 change of physician during the course of treatment for any 1 accident. Chapter 6104. With respect to any non-willful violation, $2,500 per violation, aggregated amount of $10,000. Injured employee, 13 weeks immediately preceding the accident. Her or his average weekly wage shall be 1/13 of the total amount. And then we have C, employee is a seasonal worker, 13 weeks immediately. Employer shall have 30 days receipt of the following proof to adjust the compensation rate. 6105. 2. To provide consideration including board, rent, housing, or lodging shall be deducted when calculating the average weekly age. 6106. 2A 104, 104 weeks except as provided. Except 6107. C, 75% of the employee's average weekly temporary total disability reduced by 50% for each week. D, 6 weeks before the expiration of temporary benefits. Okay, 6108. 4A shall be equal to 80%, between 80% of the employee's average weekly. 66, 2/3, or 66.67% within 5 days after the carrier's knowledge. Employees released restricted work. 80% of their pay injury average. Case 6111. Compensation for death. Death results from accident within 1 year. Accident within 5 years. Within 14 days after receiving the bill, not to exceed $7,500. Shall not exceed $150,000. 66 2/3 or 66.67 to the spouse. If there is no child, 50% of the average weekly wage. To the spouse if there is a child or children, 16 2/3%. Spouse shall be entitled equal to 26 weeks of the compensation at the rate of 50% average weekly. $150,000 limit provided in this paragraph. Child or children, 33% for each child. To the parents, 25%. Brothers, sisters, grandchildren, 15% for each brother, sister, and grandchildren. The spouse of a deceased state employee shall be entitled to a full waiver of such fees, shall terminate 7 years. Notice of injury or death. Employer of the within 30 days after the death of the or initial manifestation of the injury. 6114, time bars to filing petitions within 2 years after the date. Employee knew or should have known that the injury or death arose out of the work. Page 6115, 14 days after the receipt of a petition. One second, guys. Let me close the door real quick. Okay, so 6116, carrier must pay first installment no later than 14 calendar day. Page 6119, parties no less than 10 days notice of such hearing by mail. What else? 6127, 44038, self-insurers. 6128, Self-insure, if the employer fails to maintain requirements, the association shall recommend to the department revoke the employer's authority to self-insure. Qualifying security and deposit shall consist surety bonds, irrevocable letters of credit in favor. Violation by a self-insurance fund shall result in the imposition of a flat line not to exceed $1,000 per audit. Self-insurance fund fails to act on said audits by correcting errors. All insurance carrier at the written request $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 per claim. Any amount of coinsurance to pay 80%, employer to pay 20%. Injury compensable under the chapter up to the limit of $21,000. Number 2, submission of an application that contains false, misleading, and incomplete information. Avoiding or reducing workers' compensation coverage is a felony of the 3rd degree. 6130, employer shall make available all records necessary for the payroll verification. Carrier cannot complete the audit as a result. The employer shall pay $500 to the carrier to defray the cost of audits. Number 8, if an employer fails to provide reasonable access to the payroll records for a payroll verification, the employer shall pay a premium to the carrier or self-insurer not to exceed 3 times the most recent estimated annual premium. 6131, 30 days after the member has become an insolvent member. 6139, compensation notice. Secured compensation, keep posted in a conspicuous place. 6147, reemployment assessment within 30 days after the time such assessment is complete. Within 15 days of the receipt of the assessment report or notice of employee's election. And that's it for our chapter 6. And this should be it for today. I'll try to cover rest of the chapter that we have from 7 to 10 in next couple days or maybe next week. If you guys did find this video a little helpful, please let me know by comment, and because that's the only way to know if my videos are reaching out to you guys, you know. So I'll appreciate it if you guys leave a comment or some sort of like, so I know you get it's helpful to some people. And I'll see you guys next week. You guys have a good week.